start, I'm going to make a couple comments. First, if you take a look in the upper left-hand corner, when I was full-time consultant, that was my trademark. I still own the trademark today. We're not going to discuss that much, but it's integral to what we're going to be talking about. And if you just think about it, build to demand, the lean end game, I think you'll get the drift. Okay. Second thing, where's Leslie? Well, you saw Leslie earlier, and she's up here to keep us on track, to keep us on time, and she is a real, she'll be out there with signs to say you got 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. I'm highly nearsighted. I can hardly make out a face in the room right now. Third thing is, when I was talking to Hannah about potentially talking here, I made the comment, Hannah, this is great. I could talk for hours and hours on this subject. She said in a very dry voice, you got 15 minutes. I got 14 slides to get through, and I might go over, just a little, but so anyway, I have some questions. How many of you here have responsibility for supply management function? Well, I'm impressed. That's great. In addition to that, how many here rely on your supply base to succeed in the functions you are responsible for? Mm-hmm. And how many of your companies source primarily on piece price? Really? I don't believe you. In industry today, and I do a lot, I get out a lot, I'm a writer for IndustryWeek, you'll hear that in a second. I talk to OEMs, and their primary performance metric at the end of the year is material variance, which is basically year-to-year pricing. If it doesn't go down, they don't get a bonus, they don't get raises. So anyway, we're going to talk about the economic value of true lead time reduction, and it's going to point out some, I've been called a heretic. It's going to point out some things that you're going to agree with, you're not going to agree with, but I base my work on data, and I've got the data to show you. And bottom line on all this is, if you work in supply management, there's a heck of a lot more you can get to benefit the value of your product and increase the economic benefits of your prospects of your company than just increase price. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I was brought on, I've had 2 tours with IndustryWeek. My first one was from 2014 to 2017. That tells you how old I am. And evidently I didn't reach escape velocity, because they brought me back last year, and they wanted to have a supply chain initiative. And I said, well, if it'll address what I want to address, then I'll do it. And so I write a weekly column. IndustryWeek was just purchased. I don't have my new business cards. If at the end you want to make some sort of contact, give me your business card and a note on the back, and I'll hold it. So what the initiative is based on is, are OEMs really managing their suppliers correctly to get the most benefit they can from their supply base? And then I'm going to also talk about strategies for optimizing the dynamics between OEMs and their customers through a case history. So why am I here? I'm supply chain. Why am I here? Well, I remember back in the day when I was starting out in purchasing, we took Polaroid pictures of what was happening in manufacturing, measured parts with portage machines. That was an early CMM, and got these spreadsheets where we tried to figure out, what were trends happening in manufacturing. So when I got introduced to instrumental, it was like, they're doing the same thing, only it's a lot better. And I don't have to take pictures, and I don't have to, strain my brain. And that's why I'm here, because basically what they at least are showing me is a tool that will provide a more collaborative way to work with the supply chain and address any issues up front or during the production process that need to be addressed and take care of them, get the root cause, they don't happen again, and take care of them more quickly. So that's why I'm here, and I hope I can make that case. So what's true lead time? We should talk about that first. Lead time has many different meanings, and if you're a marketing guy and you're trying to sell something to a customer, what's lead time? Anybody? It's the time that it will take so your customer will give you the order. These marketing guys typically don't get out in the factory. They don't know anything about factory physics. And so it's just something they pull out of there hoping that that'll help them get an order. We have a definition for true lead time. It's the typical amount of calendar time. Why calendar time? Because that's what your customers work in. And when a product development effort is launched through the critical path until delivery to the end user. Okay? Why is that important? Well, you need to understand how long your customers will wait if you don't have the product on hand to sell. And if it takes you longer to get that product to them than they're willing to wait, guess what? They're going to go elsewhere. Okay? How many of you understand how long your customers will wait to get one of your products if you don't have it on hand? Think that's a problem? Sure is. Also, critical path implies that you can't do it based on inventory. Why do you not want to do it based on suppliers' inventory? Because you're introducing cost and waste to their operation, something you don't want to do. And the reason it's a pretty cool metric is you can take the elements of all the things you do, like product development, like inspection, like all those things, you comprise them into the overall lead time, true lead time, which is really appropriate to the product. So people here say they don't source based on price, and if that's true, that's a good thing. But here's what I see when I talk to people, what I had to live with, frankly. Supplier performance metrics are also the metrics that you source by. Okay, you need to understand what the price is, can they support your order fulfillment needs, and what kind of quality are they going to deliver. But in truth, it's based on pricing, even though maybe not in electronics. If there are problems with quality and delivery after the source is selected and start shipping the parts, it's a firefighting thing. You know, it's a tactical operation to work on these things, and that's truly not the way to do business. It just isn't. So on this next slide, I missed this. Leslie, if you're out there, I missed this. She helped me with these slides. There's a picture of a tractor there. And this project, a case study that I'm going to talk about, is not on tractors. It's on lawnmowers. And they always used to call us the toy factory within John Deere. But the toy factory grew. When I started working at the toy factory in 1984, we had sales of $240 million. When I retired in 2006, we had sales of $6 billion. You might think that's a lot for lawnmowers. It is. Okay. But we took over the market, and when we started, it was Sears Craftsman. Okay. And I don't even know if they sell much these days. But we took over the market, and we're set up in different divisions, at least we used to be. And we had a lawn and grounds care division. And in our division, we did things differently than the other divisions. We had to. People build lawnmowers in garages and sell them. Okay? They don't build big tractors like the picture you see in this picture in their garages and sell them. So it was really important that we be competitive in price-wise, even though we had a quality product. We had, a John Deere top quality product. So, for instance, I've heard some really interesting presentations. Particularly, I liked them all, but the one on contracts was amazing, and I want to hear more about it. But for instance, I was telling you, we did some things back in the day in the 80s that were ahead of our time. And one of the things we did is we didn't have a part design finalized until we had a meeting. And we reviewed each print, each part. And this is before, Pro-E and all those things. We sit down and look at it, and we had our manufacturing people there. We had our quality people there, because they had a say in what the tolerance should be. We had our tier 1 supplier there, and any strategic tier 2 suppliers. Can't see you. And we would go over that print. And we had suppliers that saved us a lot of money because we could revise the design to make it processing lower expense. We just didn't send out designs to suppliers. We were doing that a long time ago. Another thing, and that's very collaborative. Another thing we did was very collaborative is we had a supplier development function with 9 full-time industrial engineers who spend 90% of their time out in suppliers' factories. And we also had a business a business challenge, which was we had previously only sold John Deere lawn and garden equipment from John Deere dealers. How many of you ever walked through a John Deere dealer? Got one. That's not a real good way to sell products. So we were going to go and work to try to get into the big box manufacturer. And we knew we couldn't do that profitably. Very seasonal business. Most of the manufacturers, they produce everything that could possibly be ordered and have it on stock on January, because with the big box guys, if you can't deliver it to them in 3 days, they start deducting what they paid. And if you're late a week, you're selling to them at a loss. We were going to do that. We're going to work with a reactive supply chain, which required us to go out and take a look at their 2 lead times and help them reduce them. I was told one time early in my career that if you want to present to managers, you want to be understood, put it in pictures. And if you really want to make an impression on your bosses, put it in color. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this graph, other than say each of these bars that goes up represents a commodity, and the purple is before and after, before true lead time, and the after is what we ended up with. Overall, across our supply base over a 7-year period, working with every one of our strategic suppliers, which was over 80, we had a 78% reduction in lead time. Now, I brought a bunch of copies of something I wrote for industrial engineering, and it's a complete review of this case study. You'll see all these charts in here, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. And there was also another case study that was written by one of my colleagues, and it details the financial benefits, but it also has a lot of gobbledygook about algorithms and stuff. So I've highlighted the things I recommend you read. Those are available on that back table. If they run out, you want one, give me your card, right on the back of your card you want it. So you understand that. This is what happened to quality and delivery. Why? If your lead time goes down and quality and delivery get better? No. The things you have to work on to bring your lead time down is control your quality and make sure that there's a shorter lead time, because the shorter the lead time, the less bad things can happen to interfere with delivery. So again, that's in the article. This is what happened to our factory. Before, our factory downtime on production lines was red. After we worked on lead time reduction, it was blue. Anybody have a problem financially when your assembly lines go down? It's really expensive. And my department would get charged $25,000 an hour if there's any purchasing issue that caused downtime. And it was tough. It was really tough. So this is a chart you should really be interested in, because what it does is if you take a look before and after true lead times, the reduction we were able to achieve on that for the various commodities left hand, before and after on-time delivery, and before and after piece price. And we didn't tell the supplier what the piece price was after the project. We had them go to their accounting people, and they told us what we would lower the price, and we didn't have a sharing. So we shared, if a supplier could reduce the price, we shared the benefits with them. This is all in, and I will point out to you, circuit boards was one of the commodities or the products types that we worked at. So there is a a bit of a relationship here. The end result of this case study was we had a supply chain that could react to market changes by delivering up to 20% more than was in the schedule with 2 weeks notice. Okay? Factory on-time deliveries from our factory to our dealers went from a really poor 63% up to 92%. I can't talk about an $8 billion spend, but I can tell you in 1 year we reduced the inventory we needed to service that market by $809 million. Now that came because we had a supply chain that was built to demand capable. Did I get credit for it? Yes, I did. and it really overwhelmed what my piece price reduction was. We improved in 1 year shareholder value add by $107 million. And we were able to support market demand that came up actually double what was for. Reducing lead times diminishes the amount of reliance we have on forecasts. Anybody know how accurate or how often you get an accurate forecast? Never. Okay. But that's not the only case today. I was hired by the Department of Defense to run a supply chain flexibility initiative for them over 3 years. These are the results we had: 8 primes, 195. Two of the primes were in the electronics industry. I'll tell you who they were: United Technologies and Rockwell Collins, who has now been bought by United Technologies. But we had about 25 suppliers from each. $75,000 reduction in supplier direct operational costs. It was just a 6-month intervention. We worked on a limited number of part families. 56% reduction in supplier inventory required to support customer order fulfillment needs. $100,000 reduction in supplier quality related needs. I won't tell you which one it was, but one of the electronics manufacturers across their 25 suppliers that was included in their study had a 56% improvement in on-time delivery and 26% improvement in delivery quality. There is a report on that. I didn't include that, but we have to, when you do something for the Department of Defense, they really watch every penny, and they have to have a very comprehensive final report. So we had like a 25-page report. So what I'm going to say is that what the pyramid should be like for supply management should be focusing on lead time. Now, lead time doesn't just mean in the factory. You don't just source with lean suppliers. And this will be sort of I'm a heretic to say this to most of the people in the room. Lead time includes transportation. Okay? When I was working with Chinese suppliers, and we have factories in China, they had 90 days firm. I don't know if you guys run into that, but when you have a 90-day of sales season and you're trying to react to changes in between what was forecast and demand, 90 days firm won't do it. Okay? Anybody ever tried to collaborate with Chinese suppliers? I know you've tried. In product development, it was an impossibility. In factory operations, we had half a chance. Maybe you got better suppliers than I do, but that's the way it was when I was there. So you got those copies. No time for question, I went over. But if you want to go out for drinks with me and Ryan after this, we can talk more. And by the way, there's people saying, oh, we got all these stories. There's nobody that has more stories than a purchasing manager.